Hello, Professor. It is too bad that these presentations are not seen by all the students. These were amazing questions that I would have been very interested in reading the papers of my colleagues. But here's my presentation. I decided to pick the topic on how does Einstein's theory of relativity impact our understanding of time and evolution. Throughout this article, you will find the fingerprints of God. First, today's world needs light. There's a lot of distortions going on, and science has found that there is a creator. The theory of the Big Bang has been debunked, and the theory of evolution has been debunked. With the theory of relativity and with the cells of our body. Once you get an understanding of all of this, you will understand when the Bible says that God is light. You'll understand how He is the light. In today's world, there are many distortions with what's wrong and what is good. You are basically free to do whatever you want, just as long as you are not hurting anyone. You could even pick a gender based on your feelings, your emotions, whatever you want, just as long as you're not hurting others. I would like to call this manipulation of the youth. You are free to say anything you want, to feel a certain way, but there are certain words that you cannot talk about. For example, God. If you talk about God, you're different and weird. The world doesn't seem to like this. But wouldn't you like to change this? Well, science has already found God, but you just haven't seen it because it hasn't been on your Facebook feed. So Albert Einstein was an author, mathematician, an inventor, a teacher, and a philosopher of science. Even though he did not believe in God, he might have found him. There is a quote going on in the internet saying, "The more I study science, the more I believe in God." This quote is said not to be true. So I took it as is, and I kept on looking for more information on him. I came across a letter that he wrote to his daughter, and the letter was supposed to be kept until the world was prepared, or so that's how the story goes. In this letter, it says, "The universal force is love. There is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation to." The letter goes longer than that, but that is the basis of it, that he found the universal force, which he called love. And in the Bible, we see that it says, "The one who does not love does not know God, because God is love." In finding love, I feel like Albert Einstein found God, but I'm not trying to persuade you with a love note to his daughter. I'm trying to persuade you with science, specifically with the theory of relativity that he discovered. So in 1905, Einstein boards a train. And remember, Einstein was after Newton. Okay, Newton had already established his laws. So in 1905, Einstein boards a train, and he is looking out the window, and he looks at the clock in a tower outside in the train station. And he imagined himself traveling in that train at the speed of light. He then realizes that that time would go slower, would look like it almost stopped as he traveled at the speed of light, while the people still waiting on the train in the train station would see time at the normal pace. So he discovered that the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. In Newton's law, it says that if a train that is going 80 miles per hour is going 80 miles per hour, to respect to the observer. So, in other words, if you are on the train and you are going 80 miles per hour and you see a train going at 80 miles per hour next to you, it's going 0 miles per hour to your perspective. But if a train next to you is going 100 miles per hour and you're going 80 miles per hour, then in your perspective, you will see that the other train is going only at 20 miles per hour. So Newton only thought everything was linear, and this was his observation, that it depending on the observer. So when Einstein discovered the speed of light, when he was in the train, he discovered that the speed of light was constant. So this became his special relativity. So he added to Newton's law, and he hypothesized that time stretches and contracts, varying with velocity, and this is called space-time. So in space-time, we are not pulled by the gravity of the sun. We are pulled by the curvature of space-time as we travel through its path. The closer we get, the more we accelerate. Different masses accelerate at different rates. Time runs slower on the surface of an atmosphere. So, in other words, the duration of a second is proportional to the velocity of a falling object. If you have a clock on top of Mount Everest and you have a clock at sea level, the clock at sea level will be slower than the clock on top of the mountain. So knowing all of this, and knowing how light works, God is light, so he is unchanging. Mass and energy are infinity, and time is infinity. So you could see that God is omnipotent. In the human cell itself, you could see the great works that he did, meaning God, not Einstein. So evolution says that we are a mere coincidence. But when the cell was discovered in 1665, we just thought that it was just a blob. And it turns out that there is a total of 30 trillion cells in our body, with 200 different cells, and they each use 600 different proteins. Inside that cell, there are molecular protein machines that have a little motor called the bacterial flagellum, which is the image that you're looking at. And if you could see it, you could see all the parts, all the components needed to make this one insignificant little motor. It has 30 different parts, all aligned in the right location, all ordered perfectly, and that was no coincidence. You could tell that is not a coincidence. There is DNA in our cells. There are DNA strands in a cell. In one cell, you could find 6 feet of DNA strands if you stretch them all. If you put all the DNA in our body all together and you stretch them, they will go from Earth to the sun and back 61 times. Evolution cannot explain this, and evolution cannot explain the conception or reproduction, how our immune system even began, why many viruses live in our body, why we have different blood types, and what came first, the heart or the blood. The Big Bang and the theory of evolution do not prove much. We are not here based on coincidence. We are not an accident. how can you explain the 30 pieces in the bacterial flagella? There's perfect configurations of the planets, everything all balanced perfectly in harmony. All of this calls for a builder. When you understand how physics work, you will understand a little bit how in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and you will see that this is not too far-fetched. And just as a bonus, I added an image of the mountain that sits in Ciudad Juarez. This is a sister city of my hometown, El Paso, Texas. So there's a pilgrimage every year where people go up the mountain and they paint this mountain, and it says, La Biblia es la verdad, léela, which means the Bible is life, read it. I just felt like sharing that little piece of information. I hope you liked the presentation, but I think my article is better written. Thank you.